And African Affairs analyst Ademola Oshodi joins me for more on this ban on opposition and human rights activists from rallies ahead the Chadian presidential election. Good to have you join us, Ademola Oshodi. President Idris Deby himself came into power after a revolution that removed former President Hissène Habré from office. He came through a revolution. So when you see all of these activities just before the election, especially banning opposition from rallies, how does that come to you?
Thank you for having me. It comes to me as a natural coincidence, a natural implication of a weak state in many emerging democracies. Chad is not excluded. The Chadian situation is not unique, but unfortunately, it's one of the worst cases in Africa, where a despot has been in power for decades. This includes Cameroon and Gabon and, of course, other parts of East Africa. The election is going to be controversial. Is seeking his sixth term. The opposition is rallying together around the candidacy Theophilus Bongoro, but everybody expects Deby to come out victorious in the April election.
One of the main opposition figures in Chad, Success Masra, has called for the international community to put pressure on President Deby. But when you look at the fact that President Deby is an ally to the West when it comes to fighting Islamic militias in Chad, in the Sahel as a whole, and is an envoy to Mali in terms of keeping political stability in that country, do you see any sort of pressure coming from the international community?
No. I see zero pressure coming from the international community beyond the fact that he should not embarrass them by killing or arresting too many opposition figures. Basically, Chad has been sacrificed. These political opposition and the civil society groups has been sacrificed for the security situation in West Africa, interest of the French, interests of the Americans, and of course even the interests of Nigeria. The realpolitik, has basically taking over the reality of a situation there. Basically meaning security realpolitik has won the day. Security is more important than the well-being of the political development of Chad. France will not want to be embarrassed, but France will need Deby to be returned to power. France has tons to over 2,000 French troops there. Chad sends troops to Mali. Chad sends troops to the Central African Republic. It's a pivotal stabilizing force in West Africa. Nigeria needs Deby in power. Nigeria needs him to provide security in the northeast part of Nigeria against the Boko Haram. So beyond the opposition people, parties in Chad and civil society groups, international community will want Deby to return, obviously with less human rights concern.
He could stay in office for as long, if he continues to win these elections, he could stay in office for as long as 2033, and which means that, we've seen the protests in that country when he was announced for another term, which means that things could degenerate politically in Chad. Now, on one hand is the security in the Sahel, and another is the political stability in that country. If things degenerate in Chad, what would that mean for the security in the Sahel?
It would mean something really bad. I think obviously the most important aspect of West Africa right now is security. Security with Boko Haram, security with the Al-Qaeda in the Sahel, security with the raiding and marauding, people moving from one country to another seeking for good pasture. Also, it's very important for the West to close down on the migration through the Sahara to the Mediterranean. So security is number one. Powers that be are ready to sacrifice democratic development in Chad to ensure security is put in place. We all know how effective Chad has been in the fight against Boko Haram. We all know how much they've assisted France in stabilizing areas of Mali. French troops are there, but the real fighting is done by the Chadians. Chad has sent troops all the way down to East Africa, to fight for French interest and for the stability of Africa.
It almost sounds like sacrificing one for the other. So sacrificing political stability in Chad for security in the Sahel. You touched on something earlier, which I want to ask you about, which is the fact that about a dozen opposition parties have now come together to feed one candidate. That's Theophile Bongoro, who they say they want to unite. They don't want to split the anti-Deby vote. They want to unite the anti-Deby vote. How far can this go? And I'm not just talking about winning the election, but in general, how far can this go?
It would go in the fact that it will give him President Deby a strong fight. But Deby is a master. He's been surviving since 1990. He has even managed to ally with different tribes or ethnic groups in Chad. He has this beautiful second wife that's from a different ethnic group or different tribe. So he married her just for an alliance, back to the days. It's almost days of the medieval days of, marrying kings and princes just to get alliances. So he's a master. Even if he stops the election count, or even if he denies his loss of the election, which we doubt. Even if it does that, there are not many people that will come to the aid of the opposition. The West wants stability in Chad. They will sacrifice the French democracy for that, as long as there's not enough, as long as there's not, people dying on the streets or tons and tons of opposition leaders been arrested and detained. So, and in some reason, this politic position of Chad does help Nigeria. Deby is very, very instrumental for the stability of Nigeria, especially in the northeast. But in a situation whereby democracy has been sacrificed, there has to be some way of ensuring there's a development in Chad, whether it's a freedom of speech, the media, whether it's the opposition has been allowed to grow.
And that's what, just allow me quickly,
it has to be that.
You raised a point that I want to stay on. I don't want to lose it, which is what you're talking about now. I'm ensuring that there is freedom of speech in Chad, freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of assembly. But where should that pressure come from? It's not going to come from France. You already stated that. There is the African Union, there is ECOWAS, there are several organizations. Where can that pressure come from?
It has to come from France. It really has to come from France. And France is applying the pressure, but it is subtly applying it. It's not coming out publicly to criticize the government, at least not in strong terms. So France will, use a carrot and stick position whereby it will, make threats of aids, foreign aid, holding back foreign aid, but in the same breath, it will try and ensure that there's not too much upheaval in the social, in the civility of Chad. But it has to come from France. France is a big, former colonial master there. France is the one that needs them. France is the one that funds a lot of their military. So it has to come from France. The African Union, Deby was once the leader of the African Union at one stage. So Africa right now needs stability. And in many cases, whoever can provide that, whether Deby or any other force, they will gladly take it. There's tremendous pressure in West Africa and parts of East Africa for the breakdown of the state. You have weapons coming in from Libya. You've having Al Qaeda been, in the Maghreb, stabilizing Mali, Burkina Faso, and even parts of Niger. We have Boko Haram roaming around the north. So if people cannot leave and have a a good livelihood, what's the point of democracy? So this is the challenges that faces us in Chad and in all parts of Africa. And we ensure there's a balance whereby there's some sort of progress in the development of elections and democracy in general is taking place, and at the same time a keen eye on security and well-being of the people of Africa in general.
Absolutely. It does look like a tough call to make. African Affairs analyst Ademola Oshodi, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.